Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Two Footed Tackle podcast. I'm your host, Ari Stamatakos. We are here again. Another day, another podcast, another episode, another 40 minutes odd of chatting shit about football. Hope the day has treated you well. The week, that's muscle memory right there. Hope the day treated you well. I hope everyone enjoyed the four. I was going to say exciting games. Some were exciting, some weren't. Some had a lot of goals, some had no goals. So we'll cover all of that. But I hope the day treated all of you nicely. Hope any Australians have recovered or have at least come to terms with what has happened. It sucks. It sucked. But I guess it is what it is. I'm still not mentally over it. But I guess maybe come Saturday night, I think I might be mentally over it, but it is what it is. We can't dwell. We can only move forward, as the saying goes. So, we're going to move on from that. Thank you all for the support on yesterday's episode. It was greatly appreciated. Thank you all very much for the support on the clip as well that went out. Greatly appreciated. It means the world to me when I see it. Do something not bad. So there you go. But yes. We are going to cover all four games, going to cover some storylines that have come out of the World Cup, as we always do on this podcast, as we always do on this World Cup edition of the podcast anyway. But before I start, all the formalities, check out all the good stuff, all the links in the description on YouTube, in bios of Instagram and Twitter, which I've plugged long enough now for you to know where it is. So if you're watching on YouTube for the first time, it's in the description. If you're listening on Spotify, then I assume you got to the Spotify from the Instagram or from the Twitter. So I'm not too concerned, and that goes for most audio platforms, in fact. So I don't really think there's a need to plug it there. And anything else, not really. Okay, not really to cover anything else, do I? No, I don't. Okay, let's crack on. Let's go, and let's start with the early game. Let's go with the early game. 9:00 game, which I caught bits and pieces of because I was watching my brother tear it apart in 7-a-side, so I was kind of half occupied. But I caught most of the game. Caught all of the second half. Caught most of the first half. But I was watching a masterclass in 7-a-side finishing, so I was preoccupied. But it was, of course, Croatia and Morocco, and a game which was pretty evenly balanced. I think pre-game, I thought obviously Croatia will be probably were the favourites heading into it, just purely because of course they won the Nations League. They won their Nations League group most recently. They were obviously finalists 4 years ago, and they obviously are a team that have a bucket loads of talent. It's still a relatively similar squad to 2018. Probably the midfield's kind of similar. The defence is similar in parts. The attack's similar in parts. Manager's still the same, formation's still the same, system's relatively similar as well, so I guess the only thing different is some personnel. But Morocco were a little bit of I wouldn't say dark horse, because I'm not really sure it's fair to call Morocco a dark horse, both to the actual dark horses of the tournament, because not many people really expect them to go through. They have some talent. They have obviously Hakimi Mazraoui. Amrabat is still going around. I thought the guy retired, I reckon, 7 years ago, but no, Amrabat's still running around, which was quite funny. Was quite funny when I saw that. And of course you've got Hakim Ziyech as well, who is their main man, who really is going to provide all the creativity, especially in that final third. We all know he's not having the best of times at Chelsea at the moment. He's falling in and out of form, falling in and out of favour, I should say. So of course, he needs to find his form for his country, no doubt. And of course, you've got Buffel on the other side, who has talent. He's a mercurial player, so we don't really know what to expect from him. But the Croatia lineup was pretty similar to how we'd expected to line up. Vlasic, Kramaric, Perisic, all in that front line, and then that incredibly stacked midfield of Modric, Brozovic, and Kovacic, all the itches. It's a very, very even. It's a very balanced team. Croatia have a very, very balanced team, which is something that could take them far if they're able to get that balance right. That is obviously something that that's obviously something that they could really use. As I quickly fix the focus on my camera, this is shocking, isn't it? Yeah, okay, we're back. Quickly fix the focus on the camera. Yeah, so obviously, yeah, but that really balanced Croatia side is obviously something that could. As I quickly fix it again, I apologise. It's just giving me the shits at the moment. As I try to find where it is. There we go, fixed. Okay, I fixed it. Okay, all right, we're back. Focus should be fine now. I saw it coming in and I focused on the camera. That's great podcasting. That's why I'm just the best in the business at what I do. But no, where was I? Balance of the team. Yes, the balance of the Croatian team. As a car starts outside, that balance of the Croatian team is obviously something that could take them very far. They've got that really strong midfield, which kind of is the fulcrum of the team. It's the anchor of the team. Everything goes through them. Everything goes through Modric, goes through Brozovic, goes through Kovacic, and then you have Vlasic as well on that right hand side. He can drop slightly deeper. Perisic as well is so versatile, so he can even slide into a central midfield role. He's just that talented. So I don't necessarily think Croatia will go that far. I didn't have them going that far, but it is something that could take them far. And obviously, no one had them going as far as what they did in 2018, right? So I guess they can draw on that experience as being underdogs and kind of upsetting the apple cart in a sense. Of course, they beat Denmark, Russia, and England on their way to the final. So pretty good teams to beat. Of course, the Denmark side, which we all saw what they did at the Euros, and England side, which we all saw what they did at the Euros, and a Russia side who we beat Spain in the round previous, right? So it was, of course, it's a fantastic side that obviously isn't fully there. Like I said, it's still bits and pieces, but they can draw off that experience. And when you look at Morocco had a pretty underwhelming 2018 World Cup. They didn't get a point. They got 1 point, and that was against Portugal in the final game. They lost to Iran, and lost to Spain, which was pretty disappointing. But I guess I can draw from that experience a little bit to on what not to do. But when we look at the game in itself, it was a pretty even game. Not pretty like. Yeah, it was boring. I was going to say I shouldn't call it boring, but it was pretty boring. Morocco looked a little bit better than what a lot of people expected. Croatia, as expected, held on to the ball quite a lot. We're just looking to play that final. We're just looking to pass and wait for that final pass into the final third, I should say. It didn't really come. Both teams didn't really have the like the oomph factor, the oomph factor, I should say. But yeah, it's one of those things where first game of the tournament, both teams looked a little bit sluggish. Both teams looked a little bit not all there. And it did come to the fore in a sense where both teams didn't have that final edge. And I think if this game happened maybe the third group game or potentially even in the round 16, I know obviously it wouldn't, but like if it were to happen that late into the tournament, I think maybe this game could have had a few more goals, could have been a little bit more exciting. Both teams just look to lack that synergy between themselves. Of course, they've only been in camp for about a week and a bit, I think. So I know especially Croatia have a lot of players playing in the top European leagues. They've only been in camp for about a week and a half. So they haven't really been able to find that synergy again, and they have obviously been. It obviously is something that could hinder them, and obviously did show that it did hinder them, right? So it's something which maybe will come in the tournament. I don't expect Croatia and Morocco to be as boring as what they were on last night in that game. I think it was a little bit of playing cat and mouse, just trying to figure out what the other team will do. Neither of them could really figure each other out, which is something which I didn't really expect from Croatia, because Croatia normally are a very intelligent side. They know they can figure out what the opposition are going to do quite quickly, and they can figure out what the opposition can do quite quickly, and they can figure out what they can figure out what the opposition are going to do quite quickly, and then they can isolate the weaknesses that come from that. So it's something that I didn't expect Croatia to be as passive as what they were. I understand they are a very passive side naturally, because they like to hold on to the ball. They like to hold on to the ball. They like to be very patient in possession, which of course they can be with Brozovic, with Kovacic and Modric in that midfield. Is something that is something that allows them to play that way. And obviously, you need to play to your strengths, right? So, um, yeah, so they need to play to their strengths. They do play to their strengths, and that's obviously the way they play. They use that midfield quite a lot, and they use it to break teams down. They use it to spread the ball out wide and recycle possession. I just feel like that final pass, they didn't really have a lot of creativity in that final third. You could see why Croatia obviously had a lot of possession. They obviously dominated the ball, had a lot of passes in that middle third. So that in that final third, I don't think Vlasic was up to it. Kramaric is a lot more of a, I don't really know what Kramaric is. It's a bit weird, and Perisic didn't really look to be as on form as what we potentially should have seen from him. So it was it was something that is kind of toing and froing between are Croatia good, are they bad, are they average? When we look at it from Morocco, I think you can hold your head up high if you're a Moroccan person, or if you're a Moroccan supporter, because that was a game which you needed to get a point of, and they did get a point, so they can go into the game against Canada. I'm not sure where that is, if that's second or third, but when they verse Canada, they'll be like, all right, if we get a win here, we can definitely cause a shock, and potentially if they get a point against Belgium as well, they can definitely cause a shock. I think this is a very even group. We're going to touch on the Belgium-Canada game as well, but I think this is a very, very even group. I think Morocco shocked me in particular. I thought Croatia were going to... I didn't think Croatia would win. I did predict a draw yesterday, but I thought Croatia were going to look a little bit better than what they were. So I don't know if this is Croatia looking slightly worse or Morocco looking slightly better than what I expected in comparison, or when looking at both sides. But I guess time will tell. So I guess time will tell when it comes to that. This is shaping to be... this is shaping to be a pretty even group, and a group which I didn't think would be as even. I thought Belgium and Croatia would run away with it, but when we're going to touch on the Belgium game, we're going to touch on the Belgium Canada game in a bit, and that game was, despite the result, didn't pay the result didn't paint a fair picture of what this group could show. But let's move on from that game to the game, which we're going to speak about. We're going to speak about this a little bit more in depth, I think. Obviously, Germany, Japan. Now, wow, what a game, huh? What a game. I'll tell you what my conclusion from this game was. My conclusion from this game was, I think it's clear to see now that Asian football is absolutely terrible. I reckon there should be one spot for Asian teams in the World Cup. They suck. Like, it's funny, isn't it? It's funny, isn't it? It's very funny because obviously I spoke about it 2 episodes ago. Since then, yes, Australia lost, but Saudi Arabia beat Argentina, and Australia did take the lead against France, and then of course, Japan beat Germany. So maybe Asian football is underrated, but we're going to touch on a little bit of that. We're going to be touching on that a little bit later. Let's touch on the game, and let's speak about what happened before the game. Of course, Germany were in, I wouldn't say alliance, but were kind of following the suit of England and I think Denmark and some other European nations in wearing the One Love armband. And of course, FIFA have now not allowed that. So Germany decided to make a stand in their own way. They covered their mouths in the team photo before the game. Brilliant. Just a nice statement to make. It's not a political statement because human rights isn't politics. I don't see any other human rights being politics, right? So it's not politics, it's human rights. So for them to do that and for them to kind of risk punishment or risk a fine, you can't punish them for that because they could just be like, oh, our mouths were cold, right? Or like we didn't brush our teeth. So they could really make up any excuse to do that, and they could really there's no real concrete proof of why they did that, but we can all assume, and it's pretty much said without being said what they meant by that. Fantastic. Just this tournament is going to be marred by these political statements. They aren't political statements. Like 40 listeners, those in big quotation marks. These aren't political statements, right? Because they're just supporting basic human rights. It's going to be surrounded by this controversial topic and this controversy and sorry, I shouldn't say controversial topic, but this when you look at it from the perspective of where the tournament is being held, there it's potentially controversial in that aspect because of the potential punishments, etc., etc., etc. But really, this shouldn't be controversial at all. This standing up for a lot of basic things, and this standing up both when it comes to kind of an organizational type thing. Of course, we saw with like the One Love stuff. This kind of has been driven by a lot of nations to what Iran did against England, which was completely off their own back and didn't involve FIFA, doesn't involve any other country, just involves them, right? And they put their neck out on the line and stood up against their establishment, and an establishment which notoriously doesn't like to be stood up against. So you take that, of course, FIFA is an establishment that notoriously doesn't like to be stood up against. The Qatari government, or the Qatari establishment. I'm not quite sure. I'm not too cleared up on the goings on. But the Qatari establishment is once again an establishment that doesn't really like to be stood up against. So for footballers and for people in power or in people who have power and who have influence, for them to be able to make this stand independently and risk punishment and risk fines and risk games banned and risk all of this stuff to stand up for what's right is fantastic. And I think it's going to be one of the storylines of the coming out of the tournament, the moment of the tournament. The footage of going back to the Iran thing, the footage of the Iranian players absolutely silent throughout the national anthem. The photo of the England players doing the knee before kickoff, the photo of the German players covering their mouths for the team photo. It's fantastic, right? Because they need to stand up for what's right, and this is exactly in the way to do it. So let's go to the actual game. Let's touch on the first half. Germany looked good. Hey, I was gonna speak on Japan, but I think I'll speak on them later. Germany looked very good. Germany controlled it from minute one. They were quick. They were incisive. They were elegant on the ball. They were high pressing. They were just dominating the play. Absolutely dominating Japan. And Germany obviously are a side that like to keep possession now under Hansi Flick. They moved to that 4-2-3-1 system and moved Musiala out to the left-hand side. Gnabry was playing really, really wide on that right-hand side. They kind of transitioned back into a 3 with Klosterman. Klosterman played on that right side, who then came in to be that right side centre-back. They formed that 3 at the back. That double pivot of Kimmich and Gundogan, was it? Yeah, Gundogan started with Kimmich in that double pivot slightly ahead. And then Raum, is that how you pronounce his name? I don't know. The left-back, Raum. He's not a sheep, so I don't think I should call him Ram. He obviously was being that left winger, basically pushing really high into that left sided byline, maintaining the width down that left hand side, which allowed Musiala to come inside and be very, very influential. He was very good. Musiala is a fucking baller. He's a very good, very, very talented footballer. And this is kind of sparking the new wave and the next generation of German players, because Musiala is one of those players who isn't the German player. When you think of German players, you think of this industrious kind of, not a lot of flair, but just getting the job done. When you look at that 2014 winning side, you had Muller, you had Khedira, you had Ozil, you had Closer, you had Götze, you had Schürrle, you had all these players. I butcher the pronunciations. I've Australianised them really drastically there. But you had all these players who aren't your flair players. I know Ozil is, but he isn't flair. Like, he's just very, very extremely talented and extremely proficient at what he does. And that whole German side was proficient, right, in 2014. They've moved to this slightly more elegant style of football. Of course, Havertz is playing up front, who is pretty non-German in the way that he plays the game traditionally anyway. Musiala, same. Musiala in a similar vein. Serge Gnabry in a similar vein. These players who do offer something a little bit different, do offer some directness, as well as some flair, and as well as some kind of I wouldn't say like cockiness, but they do offer this kind of like this easy on the eye way of playing football. It isn't as intense, but it also is very effective, and we saw it was very effective in the first half. Japan were holding on for dear life, despite not conceding a lot of big chances, especially in the first half. It was kind of just meaningless ball, like this meaningless possession made by Germany, just throughout like the meaning. Not I wouldn't say meaningless possession, but it was possession that was kind of how do you describe it? Possession that was kind of just in the middle third, waiting to break Japan down. Japan were very, very, very sturdy in what they were able to do, right? Very sturdy in what they were able to do. In terms of being able to compact space and not allow Japan or not allow Germany to have a lot of chances in behind and a lot of chances through the lines. But in the same vein, they didn't create. Of course, they had that goal that was ruled out for offside. But apart from that, they'd created next to nothing in the first half, and it was something which you look at it and you look at it like how can Japan get back into this game? I just didn't see a way of Japan getting back into this game, especially at the start of the second half when Germany just dominated some more. They just got on top of the game a lot more. They got on top of proceedings a lot more in that second half, at the start of the second half especially. And I just looked at the game and I thought, there's no way that Japan will be able to break them down until they did. And I want to give a big mention to my mate Antonio, who is going to be very, very happy that I mentioned him, because he asked for a mention on this podcast and he asked for a shout out, so here he is. And the reason for it is because he messaged me out of the blue during the game, and I'll quote him exactly. So this was at 1:21. So this would have been probably the 60th minute, maybe. Well, 1:21 is 80 minutes. Yeah, around about the 60th, 55th minute, 60th minute. He messages me out of nowhere. Throw $50 on Japan. It's paying $25. Now, I don't want to give him credit because he knows his ego is already as high as the sky, right? But from that point onwards, Japan turned things around, and much of the disappointment of both of us, neither of us put the bet on, and it was kind of yeah, all right, no worries, until they started getting back into the game, until they scored the equaliser, until they scored the winner, and until the final whistle sounded, and it was like, oh shit, it actually happened. Now, I that's enough credit I'm going to give him, because he doesn't need more. The real spark for difference in this game was in my opinion the sub of Tomiyasu at halftime. What this allowed is that it allowed Japan to move to a back three, and once they moved to a back three, they were able to get more. They were able to get players into those wide areas a lot more. They were able to really expose Germany down the flanks, which of course you can do because they like to play that. They obviously move that three at the back system, and because it's a three at the back system without wing backs, and because it's in possession, they have no wing backs. They have wingers. When you get those turnovers, you can express yourself. If that's even a phrase. You can express and you can play attractive football out wide, right? Out wide, because if you get that quick counter, if you get that quick turnover, you can counter quickly out wide to those gaps, because there's no players there. There's no players even tracking back to that position, right? The only way that you can defend that is by stretching the back line, which obviously means the space in behind. The first goal obviously from Doan came from something very similar to what I just mentioned in terms of that quick counter pressing and that quick ball movement, playing that quick exciting, attacking, expensive football, especially on the counter press. And it was kind of just a wait. It was, once they scored that, it was wait and see what could happen. And Japan had the line. I wouldn't say that they didn't have possession. They didn't really have a lot of chances. But when they did have chances, they looked very deadly and they looked dangerous. They looked like a team that they looked threatening every single time they got the ball. Every single time they got the ball, they looked threatening. And it showed, of course, that goal came from the winner came from relatively nothing. It was just a ball into the channel. Asano takes the ball, drives at the defense, shrugs off Schlotterbeck. I think it would have been no, it would have been Nicholas Sula. I think shrugs him off with ease and scores. And then all of a sudden, it's kind of once again it's a moment similar to the game against to the Saudi Arabia Argentina game. Within 5 minutes, it seemed. Of course, like within 8 minutes of this game, but within 5 minutes of the Saudi Arabia game, the game is turned on its head. It is turned on its head. There's nothing like it. Like you couldn't even imagine this. You couldn't even imagine this. It's it's something that a lot of people. It's something that a lot of people, in terms of a lot of people who don't understand football, I would want to say deeply, but like I don't even know where I'm going with this. I kind of lost my train of thought. But like when you don't look at this Japan side, in that makes sense, and you look at them for the players that they've got, you're not really that excited by the players they've got. But with the way that they play, it's just this high tempo, high energy way of playing football that can turn a game on its head like this. So they were always within a chance. They were always within a sniff. Always within a sniff. Because of this kind of hell for leather, helter-skelter way of playing football, especially when they get that turnover, that quick turnover. Of course, they had to hold on for 14 more minutes. Of course, there was +7 when it comes to added time. And they held on for a phenomenal victory. And I'm going to touch on the Costa Rica-Spain game, but this victory, in my opinion, pretty much sees Japan through to the round of 16, because I don't see Germany beating Spain. I can see them getting a draw 100%, but I don't see them beating them, and I don't see Japan losing to Costa Rica. So unless Japan can manage to not go through on 4 points. Unless Japan can manage to not go through on 4 points, and kind of do a reverse of what they did 4 years ago, and like finish on equal points as third and not go through, or as second this time and not go through, then I see Japan through, and what that means is that one of Spain or Germany are out, and if it's Germany, you can't go out in group stages into consecutive World Cups. You can't do that. I can't remember when was the last time the World Cup winners' curse has carried over an extra year. We all thought it'd go over to France. I don't think that's going to happen now, unfortunately, and that is just partly Australia's fault, so you can blame us. But has the World Cup curse ever carried over to 2 years in a row? 2014. Yes, it did. Yes, it did in 2014, Italy. So there you go. There you go. I'm pretty sure Italy didn't make it out of the group stage in 2014, did they? It was Uruguay that got through. Yeah, it was. So obviously Italy won in 06, 2010 they bombed out, in 2014 they bombed out. So there you go. So you have that 06, 2 years in a row World Cup curse. Maybe that means Germany won't qualify for the 2026 World Cup. Maybe that's what it means. But fuck yeah, there you go. There you go. So it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen in two consecutive brackets where the World Cup winners from 8 years ago don't make it out of the group stage in 2 consecutive World Cups. That's of course if Spain beat Germany, which is going to be a cracking game. The jeopardy on that game is going to be massive, absolutely massive, which is good. But yeah, I think I alluded to it at the start. Let's touch on Asian football, hey. Let's touch on Asian football because, like I said, people underrate it, man. People underrate it, and people are sleeping on it big time. Like sleeping on it big time. When you look at what these countries like Saudi Arabia and Japan have able to do with the talent, with the players that they've got. Of course, Saudi Arabia don't have anyone playing in the top divisions. I don't think. I think most of their side actually plays for one team, and that is Al Hilal in Saudi Arabia, I think, or at least some of them do, or like a lot of them do. Japan obviously do have a lot of players in those top brackets. Of course, you have Endo playing for Stuttgart. You have Ito playing in France. I think Minamino, we all know like where he's floated around Tomiyasu's playing for Arsenal, etc., etc. Right, so they do have a lot of players playing in top teams, or our top teams in European clubs, but still the gap in class between Japan and Germany and Argentina and Saudi Arabia. Granted, it's a lot bigger with Argentina and Saudi Arabia, no doubt, but Japan and Germany it still shouldn't be. It still shouldn't be a competition. You can see potentially Japan scoring a goal, but really Germany should score 3 or 4. When you look at talent, but in terms of when you look at on paper talent, but they are just it's just so underrated on the world stage. And when you looked at this side, you looked at this qualification. So you looked at this confederation, and it had the worst possible start because you had obviously the 2018 the most recent Asian Cup winners, Qatar, being absolutely dog shit. You had Iran, who were the best qualifying team from Asia, I'm pretty sure, right? So, obviously, I'm pretty sure they were the top. They were the top two. They were the top team. Yeah, they finished on 25 points. Saudi Arabia finished on 23. Who topped the other group, right? So you had Iran and Saudi Arabia. So you had Iran and Qatar, two of the best, Asian teams. Qatar, the most recent, what's the word? Continental tournament winners. Fuck me. And then you have Iran being the best qualifiers. Iran gets slapped 6-1, Qatar gets slapped 2-0, but they were abysmal. So you're looking and you're thinking, fuck me, what a shocking start, right? But then bang, Saudi Arabia beat Argentina. Australia score against France, and then of course Japan beat Germany, right? So what this shows is it shows depth. It shows depth, and it also shows that hold on, we're actually got some talent over here on the east, on the eastern side of the world. Yeah, it's what can you say, man? What can you say? It really is underrated, and I think this game kind of showed everyone that. Of course, when you look at the next Asian team that we'll be playing, it will be South Korea playing at midnight tonight against Uruguay. Of course, I'll give my preview and my predictions on that when we come to it. But yeah, and apart from that, that would of course mean that the first round of games are done. That's pretty cool. So just want to touch on that because that was quite funny. That's something that I observed. But let's move on to Spain versus Costa Rica. Now, this game, 7-0. 7-0. When was the last time a team won 7-0 in a World Cup? Maybe it was Portugal versus North Korea. I think that was 7-0. Maybe that was 6-0. I don't know. But in 2010, that is, of course. 7-0. 7-0. Fuck me. This game is quite funny because you can look at to me this game makes me so happy for a couple of reasons. And those couple of reasons I'm going to bring up very shortly. But when you look at Spain, you obviously, of course, all remember that 2010 08 to 12 era, tiki-taka, Iniesta, Xavi, Busquets, David Villa, Pedro, Torres, Fabregas, Puyol, Ramos, Piqué, talent upon talent upon talent, Capdevila, talent upon talent upon talent. It obviously kind of faded away. 2014, they didn't get out of the group. 2018 was slightly underwhelming. The Euros was their first real tournament where they went back to all that. They showed everyone, oh yeah, we're actually back. Made the semi-finals and probably could have gone through to the final. But three things technically that make me so happy that Spain are good, and that is Gavi and Pedri, because the fact that Spain have the audacity to start an 18-year-old and an 18, two 18-year-olds, right? Of course, Gavi's 18. How old's Pedri? Pedri can't be older than 18, right? I refuse. There's no way. Gavi's 18. Pedri's 19. Oh, he turns 20 tomorrow. That's fucked. Well, at the time of recording, he's still 19. But the fact that Spain can start two teenagers at the World Cup in central midfield and have them both boss the game and dominate the game and just be so comfortable in possession and so comfortable at the level. The pressure didn't get to them at all. Just goes to show, A, just how talented Gavi and Pedri are, but how good that Spanish football system is. It's one of the best in the world, if not the best in the world. They just slot into that system so perfectly. It's breathtaking to watch. Absolutely breathtaking to watch. They're two of the best footballing talents on the planet right now. And the fact that Gavi is doing this at 18, the fact that Gavi is younger than me is just fucking ridiculous. And the fact that he's doing it at this level so comfortably is absurd. Absolutely absurd. He was integral. Of course, it was a 7-0 win, but he was absolutely integral to that game. Absolutely integral. And they're just that's one thing which I saw, which I noticed. But another thing in which I noticed was, and which I found, which I came to find when looking at this game, when doing some research in order to talk about it, in terms of like after the game happened and after you watch it all and all that good stuff, was the balance of Spain. And what I mean by that is this. How fucking satisfying is that? Audio listeners, I apologise. But basically what I'm bringing up is the heat map, or the average positions for Spain. How fucking satisfying is that? That is, if that doesn't show Spanish football in a nutshell, then I don't know what will. That is just absolutely absurd how much balance in that squad. And then when you couple it with their passing map, I mean, come on. Come on, man. Like, how fucking... I saw this floating around on Twitter and so many people were going mental over it, and I agree. I'm in so much agreement with them. The balance in that squad... I know it's Costa Rica. But fucking come on, man. How balanced and how just so technically capable is that team? It's ridiculous. I might need to change my predictions. I think they're going to go fucking far, man. I think when you look at my predictions, they come up against Brazil in the quarters, and that's why I've got them. They come up against Brazil in the quarters, and I've got them going out in the quarters to Brazil. But Spain are good. Spain are fucking good. Very, very, very good. Very talented. And just look at these two things, man. Just look at them. As my face gets bigger, and I apologize, probably giving a lot of people making a lot of people nauseous. I'll stop doing that. But you have the passing map, then you have the average positions. The average position is just so much balance. Passing map shows that as well. I love Spain. Love them so much. And I mean, when you look at their bench, they've got Fati, they've got Lorente, they've got Sola, Pino, Koke. Like, they've got so much talent on the bench, man. Sarabia, Spain are so good. Anyways, let's move on. Before I speak about Spain anymore, let's go to Canada, Belgium. Let's finish things up. This was such an exciting game. I was so pumped for this game, especially after the Japan-Germany game, because I thought, well, Belgium aren't as good as Germany, and Canada are a side that can just tear a game to shreds. And this was so thrilling to watch. Probably one of the better 1-0 wins. Better 1-0 games, I should say, I've watched. This was just so captivating from start to finish. So captivating. And Canada are really good. Canada are really, really good. And it wouldn't shock me in the slightest if they get out of their group. When you look at Morocco and Croatia, neither side showed just how good they were. Neither side really stamped their authority on the group. And despite being bottom of the group, the team that looked the best from those group of games was Canada, which is pretty insane to think about. The team from what group is it? Group D? Group F? Like the team from Group F that has looked the best in their first set of games is Canada, despite them being bottom of the group. Canada looked so good against Belgium. It wasn't even funny. They were passing it around. They were being so intrinsic with the way they were playing. They were doing it at pace, at tempo, getting in between the lines, using width, using balance. Alphonso Davies was exceptional. Stefan Eustachio was exceptional. Like, so many players in that team just played out of their skin, man. And they, despite losing and despite being bottom of the group, They're the team that should hold their head the highest at the end of heading into the next group of games, because they showed so much more than Morocco, Belgium, or Croatia all throughout those games. It wouldn't shock me if they get through in the slightest. If they can maintain the players that they need to maintain, if they can keep those players fit, why can't they get through? They're exceptional, man. They're very, very good. They're very good. When we look at some of the things that happened throughout the game, obviously Alphonso Davies with a penalty. It was a bad penalty, wasn't it? Yeah, I mean the penalty was clear in terms of like the decision, right? But yeah, it was just a pretty shit pen, hey. I think it was Alan Smith on commentary who said if Courtois dies the other way, we all praising it. It's a great pen. But it's just one of those things. The refereeing was fucking atrocious. I don't know how that referee's in charge after what he did at AFCON, but once again, it's FIFA, so who really cares? And Belgium aren't that good. That's good. That's what I've got in my notes. Belgium aren't that good. Canada were able to pass around them at absolute ease. Absolute ease. They relied on the counter. It was one long ball up to Batshuayi who scored. Apart from that, Belgium created next to nothing. Canada were the better team by a country mile. Canada dominated the game. It wasn't even close. Canada were by far the better team, and they should have won. They should have won quite comfortably. It should have been 2-3, 2-3-1 in my opinion, because like 2-1 or 3-1. Canada dominated. Canada absolutely dominated. I mean, if you want to bring up the stats, I'm not sure the stats will tell a similar story, but Canada had less possession, but they had 22 shots to 9. They had a 2.63 XG. They created 3 big chances. They missed all of them. They had 18 shots inside the box. Like Belgium had to make 24 more clearances than Canada. It was fucked, man. Canada looked fucking unbelievable. Canada looked so good. And if they can bring half of that, if they can bring half of what they showed against Belgium to the games against Croatia and Morocco, they can take 6 points. 100% they can take 6 points. They shocked me. If they can keep everyone fit and if they can keep doing what they're doing, they can absolutely do what they did against Belgium and do really, really well. So there you go. It's one of those things, eh? Where the upsets on the cards. That's why I was so fixated on this game, because especially after the Germany-Japan game, because I was like, Belgium are going to win. I mean, Canada are going to win. I was convinced that Canada were going to win. And when they got the pen, I was like, oh, there you go, I'm going to be right. And then they missed the pen. I was like, fuck, I'm wrong. But Canada looks exceptional. Canada looked absolutely exceptional. We're touching on 42 minutes. I've got to get this podcast out in an hour and 15 minutes. It's 12:44 at the time of recording. Do I have time? Would I have time to speak on this one last talking point before I do the preview? Is it worth it? No, I won't. I can't risk it. It's not that important anyway. You're not going to miss it. I was just going to speak about... Basically, what I was going to speak about was the scenes at Fed Square yesterday, which came out. The scenes at Fed Square, like all the scenes and stuff. And I was going to speak about the 2 blokes who pretended to be French and started a punch on, basically, or instigated a punch on, but it's not worth it. I'll just leave it. Let's move on to the preview of the week, because I don't have a lot of time. I'm in a little bit of a rush. Switzerland, Cameroon. Oh, this is going to be a meh game, in my opinion. Switzerland, I rate them, but I think they're quite disciplined, so I think it's going to be good when it's Switzerland, Brazil. That's going to be a good game. Cameroon definitely have the talent to shock them. I think it's going to be low scoring. I'm going 1-0. I'm going to go 1-0 in that game. Of course, Brazil... we'll go Uruguay, South Korea. Do I continue carrying the Asian momentum or the Asian Confederation momentum? I think Uruguay would be too strong. I just think Uruguay would be too strong. I'm going to go 1-0 Uruguay, but if South Korea can definitely get a result. Portugal, Ghana. 1-0 Ghana. 1-0 Ghana. 1-0 Ghana. No. 2-1 Ghana. 2-1 Ghana in that game. Actually, I'm going to change my Uruguay South Korea. So Uruguay South Korea, I'm going to go with. I'm going to go 2-1 Uruguay. Portugal Ghana, I'm going to go 2-0 Ghana. 2-0 Ghana. The Ronaldo factor is going to upset the apple cart big time. And then Brazil-Serbia, that's going to be a fucking cracking game. I can't wait for that. I'm actually so excited to watch that game. It's unbelievable. That has been my game to watch throughout this whole tournament, or throughout this whole group stage so far. That has been my game to watch. Obviously, apart from Australia, of course. I'm so excited. And the reason I'm excited is because I think Serbia can do them. I'm going to go with... I've already predicted one upset. I want to go 2-1 Serbia. I'm going to go 2-1 Serbia. I think Mitrovic and Vlahovic will do the business, to be honest. I just think they're going to do the business. Brazil, they're going to be a little bit sluggish. They're going to be caught off guard. 2-1 Serbia. There you go. They're my predictions. And that's where we'll wrap up. So, yes, thank you all very much for watching another episode of the 2 Footer Tackle podcast. World Cup edition. That is it. We are done. Yes, thank you all very much for watching. I already said that. Do leave your thoughts, predictions of the next group stages, games in the comments below. Leave your thoughts on any games, any talking points that I mentioned. Follow Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, socials, the socials, all the audio platforms, YouTube, all that good stuff. Yes, do all that good stuff. Can't be bothered shouting out even more. I've got an hour and 13 minutes to get this podcast up before 2 o'clock, so I better get going. Thank you all very much for watching. See you guys tomorrow, and goodbye.